Travis, and welcome to tonight's edition of the Regional News. We start off in neighboring Brazil, where the country still faces a big challenge to curb the coronavirus pandemic and should do more to integrate its efforts at different levels of government, a top World Health Organization official has said. Brazil should, and I quote, focus on a comprehensive approach to controlling the disease and doing that in a sustained fashion, end of quote, he added. Brazil, which is suffering the second worst outbreak behind the United States, reported on Monday 24,052 new confirmed cases and 692 additional deaths, taking the overall death toll in the country to 58,314. President Jair Bolsonaro has been strongly criticized by health experts for this handling of the crisis. Bolsonaro has dismissed the disease as a little flu and shown indifference to the rising death toll. The Ministry of Health also said on Monday it had distributed some 4.3 million doses of the anti-malaria drug hydroxychloroquine, a drug with little evidence of being effective against COVID-19, but with Bolsonaro has pushed repeatedly. Earlier yesterday, Governor of Brazil's most populous state said he expected this week to receive federal regulatory approval to start trials of a potential coronavirus vaccine developed by China's Sinovac in Sao Paulo. His statement comes as Brazil's federal government announced over the weekend that it had signed an agreement to produce another potential vaccine developed by pharmaceutical company AstraZeneca with researchers at Oxford University. The governor said Sao Paulo is not trying to compete with the federal government by testing the Chinese vaccine. And I quote, "The more tested and approved vaccine we have, the better," end of quote, he said. Now for some news in Latin America. The situation is deteriorating fast. The number of cases in Latin America and the Caribbean has more than tripled from 690,000 1 month ago to around 2.5 million. In Brazil and Mexico, which makes up more than half the region's population, populist governments were against scientific option and downplayed the threat of the virus, continuing to hold political rallies and resisting lockdown. While some smaller countries such as Costa Rica, Cuba, Paraguay appear to have tamed their outbreaks by reacting more swiftly and comprehensively, these two regional heavyweights are hitting record numbers of daily cases. Their epidemic curves stand to rise even more sharply as both are planning to ease quarantine restrictions on their struggling economies, defying the cautionary tale of Chile, where a partial reopening appears to have led to an explosion in cases. Carlos de Rio, a Mexican-born infectious disease expert with MR University, said that given very low levels of testing across the region, the most worrying aspect was not the number of confirmed cases, but the levels of mortality. In a worst-case scenario, if restrictions are relaxed further, the COVID-19 death toll could climb to 340,476 people in Brazil and 151,432 people in Mexico by October, researchers from the University of Washington's Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation warned this week. Experts say the true scale of the virus's spread in the region is likely much worse than reported, as many countries have failed to implement rigorous testing programs for practical or ideological reasons. And finally, in Trinidad and Tobago, the number of people killed by police in the last year has risen by 86%, a figure that is of concern to the Police Complaints Authority, CPA. For this year, 43 people have already been killed by the police, the majority being Afro-Trinidadians. Trends show the killings have occurred primarily in the Northeastern Division and stemmed from 32 shooting incidents between January to June. There have been multiple killings arising from the single incidents, such as the one which occurred on Friday involving Joel Jacob, Israel Clinton, and Noel Diamond, all of whom were shot dead by officers of the Interagency Task Force and the Guard and Emergency Branch. Statistics obtained by the local media shows that 86% increase in police-related killings from this year compared to the same period last year. The statistics also show a 60% increase in police-related killings between 2018 and 2019. This 3-year rise in police-related deaths has been of concern to the director of the PCA, David West. In an interview with Trinidad's local media, West said the PCA has concern with every police-involved fatal and non-fatal shooting. And I quote, "There is a standing policy since I assumed dictatorship of the PCA that an investigation is initiated into every police-involved shooting, fatal and non-fatal. To date, there have been 32 incidents of police-involved shootings. Out of those 32 incidents, there have been 43 victims," end of quote, he said. Asked whether he was concerned about possible cover-ups, West assured that full, fair, and thorough independent investigations are being conducted into all reported incidents of alleged police misconduct. He noted that law enforcement officers should, as far as practicable, apply nonviolent means before resorting to using force when carrying out their duties. And that's it for Region News this evening, and I continue to urge our viewers to wear those masks, continue to practice social distancing, and use those hand sanitizers. Back to you, Travis.